Hey, welcome everyone. I think we're getting close. It's Friday, April 3rd, 2026. This is the Washington State Building Code Council Executive Committee, and I think we can try to take roll, please.
Bear there.
Here.
Jay Arnold,
Here.
Ben O'Mara,
Here.
Roger Haringa.
Just popped in.
Oh, did he?
Did
Roger?
did I hear my name? I'm here now if I did.
Yes. Thank you. I got you. And Tom Handy.
Here.
That's all of you.
Just in time. Thank you. Anyone from the public like to be recognized? I see one attendee. Okay, if not, can we hear a motion to review and approve or can we approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as shown. Second.
Thank you, Jay, and then Tom.
Um,
Go ahead, Roger.
yeah, discussion. I'm sorry, I didn't raise my.
Yep.
Can you page down? I meant to have this open, but I just came from another meeting. On other business, I would be curious as an executive committee where we stand on council position renewals. You know, Chell told us last week, last meeting, that was his last meeting. Are we expecting to have an architectural person at the April meeting?
So I definitely have an update for you guys to hear at this one. Just in the last week, we got some appointment notifications. So as part of other business, I plan to give an update on what the council membership looks like now.
Okay, that's what I was thinking, is it could be handled in other business, but okay, thank you.
Good alignment there. Okay. Any other proposed edits or discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The agenda is approved as shown. Item 3 is to review and approve the minutes for March 6th. As we pull those up, can we hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
I move approval of the minutes from our March 6th meeting.
Okay, we'll go with Jay with the approval. Roger,
I'll second.
and a second. Thank you. Okay, any discussion or proposed edits? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? The March 6th minutes are approved. Item 3. I'm sorry, item 4 will be to move into a tag application. Okay, Dustin, please.
Yeah, give me one moment. I'm going to get the screen share updated, and then we'll kick off here.
And I think just to state what everyone knows, appointments to or approvals of applications can be made by either the executive committee or the full council. So that's what we're doing today, is consideration at the executive committee level.
Correct. So the last time at our last executive committee, we designated the rows. We are seeing my screen, correct? Before I jump off, it looks like I'm sharing. So
Yeah.
the rows shown in orange highlight were designated as ex officio seats. And so we were able to conduct business within the IBC tag after these changes. And so for the most part, the IBC tag is done for the 2024 code cycle. There is a need for the tags to stay assembled for the potential that there's an opinion or something or any other activity that gets directed down from the council to the tag. But the most likely thing is that an opinion comes down for some deliberation within that group and then bounces back up to be issued by the BFRW or MVPE committees. So after we had this at the last meeting, we did receive a new tag application from Tristan Karlstrom. And I let them know that there wasn't really a great fit for the open slots there. And Tristan's not able to join us today. I just got word that he had some pressing stuff at his day job that came up and prevents him from attending here. But I believe that he's also the brother of Sean Carlstrom, the current member in that seat. And so, with the uh, application I got from Tristan, I also got a notification from Sean that he would like to resign that seat to allow for Tristan to take that spot. Uh, I don't have a great letter of recommendation for Tristan Carlstrom. I did get one, but it's not necessarily recommending him for the position in the IBC tag representing cities and counties. Tristan's currently employed as a building inspector with the city of Port Angeles, and he does handle some of the planning, zoning type reviews at the city of Port Angeles. But I wasn't able to get a letter from the Planning Community Development Department from him on this one. So I have that one, and then you'll notice I have another highlight on here for Andy Leonto, one of our ex officio positions. Since we made this position ex officio, Andy has been at both the IBC tag meetings, and at the last one indicated that if we run them on the Thursdays at 1 o'clock, like we have been, that fits into his schedule moving forward. And so I believe his input is valuable to the tag, and I'd like to empower him to make votes within that group as well. So, my staff recommendation is to reinstate Andy. And what I have on here for Tristan, um, I don't know if he's a super great fit to represent the cities and counties view without the letter of recommendation. I sent this out to the tag chairs and chair alternate, but I didn't get a response back on a recommendation for Tristan within this seat. And so, I guess I'll turn it over to this group to deliberate a little bit, but I have reservations about installing him in this position as an alternate without the recommendation of his planning department.
And Dustin, I forgot when we put this on the agenda, I wasn't tracking that we don't have the IBC chair here, which is Angela. So
We do
perhaps
have a chair alternate here, though, for that one.
yeah, I understand.
Okay.
Although I think we should have Angela weigh in on any action we would take here. But go ahead, Jay.
Appreciate your perspective, Dustin. Given how we've kind of introduced the topic that the work is more ad hoc until the 2027 cycle, is there
Uh-oh. Jay, I don't know if you can still hear us, but I lost you. You cut out there right as you started the question.
let me try without audio on. Is there anything given the work for or through the end of the year before we start the 2027 cycle that says that the executive committee needs to do today?
No, there's nothing pending currently. We have a person in the primary role as well that's well attended in that meeting, and so there's no rush to do this today. Just trying to keep these things flowing so that they don't get dropped by the wayside on my end.
Okay, I think that helps. That answers the question, Jay, I think. Okay. Anyone else? So I think then we're recommending to take no action today. Okay. Okay, I'm not hearing any objection to that. Go ahead, Roger.
Well, I think that shouldn't we, I guess I would like to make a motion to reinstate Andy Liento as fire protection engineer and to take no action today on the Tristan Carlson.
Okay. Roger, I think that's fine. And I don't mean to interfere with the motion. I just maybe everyone can weigh in on having Angela weigh in as the chair.
I'll second Roger's motion and then we can discuss.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded then to reinstate Andy. I don't think that's controversial, by the way. So thank you, Andy, for everything you've done. I think we can. Do you want to take action on that today? Is everyone's preference to do that? Go ahead, Roger.
I would like to take action on Andy. I
Okay.
know He's been at some meetings, and wants to be at the meetings and had a conflict, which is why he was not able to make it. So in my mind, that makes sense and we should do that. If if you want to separate and deal with Tristan, then I'm going to suggest that I change my motion to just limit it to accepting Andy and reinstating him. And then we can talk about what officially to do with Tristan. That makes
No,
sense.
I think in your motion to take no action on Tristan today.
It was.
I understood that, yeah.
Okay.
Okay. We have this for public comment also. Anyone from the public like to speak to this? Not seeing any hands. Any other council deliberation? Okay, hearing none, then the motion is to reinstate Andy Liento as a member. Let's do a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. And then what that means is we'll bring the consideration for Tristan back up, maybe at the next council meeting if we can do a little more background work and get Angela's opinion. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next agenda item.
Let me finish some notes.
Mhm.
All right. So our next one is a rescheduling of the April council meeting. Currently, that meeting is scheduled for the 17th of April, and staff is asking for that to be pushed to April 24th to allow as much time as possible to finish up and polish up our cost benefit analyses and get the CR 102s ready to file. We are still hanging out on some information and a lot of draft work for the economic impact statements for the energy codes. So as we get there, if we're not able to make it with those codes, I'd also like to discuss a little bit at this one as what that might look like for those codes moving forward. But for the main action on this one, I'm looking to just get a little bit more breathing room for the codes that are not the energy codes to come to that council meeting.
Okay, thank you, Dustin. Is there any discussion or would someone like to make a motion to support that?
I'll move that we move the council meeting for April to the 24th instead of the 17th to give staff time to finish things up.
I'll second that.
So it's been moved by Tom, second by Ben. Give a chance here for any public comment. Okay, seeing none, any council deliberation? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? My motion passes. Thank you.
And
Okay.
as part of that one, I just want to, so I mentioned the energy codes are kind of right there at that threshold of where they're not going to come to that council meeting. We're awaiting some information from the Pacific National Laboratories for C406 table inputs that's delaying us. And then we're also just, it's a large volume of draft work for our staff here. And we're still working on it. If we can bring them to that 24th meeting, we'll bring them. But we will know by the end of the week of April, by April 17th, we'll know whether or not we're going to have those on the agenda or not.
Okay.
And then my viewpoint on that is that we can still meet all the other deadlines of getting publications out by the end of this year and implementation on May 3rd next year. So the statutes that we're not going to come up against any statutory issues if we don't bring it at this April meeting. The timeline will separate a little bit again for energy codes if they're not at the April meeting. And we should be able to bring them across the line and have all the publications all marry up at the very end, and not run afoul of any other issues. But we'll, as the agendas develop for that April meeting, we'll add them and update folks as necessary.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that item?
No, sir.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, next agenda item is item 6. We propose to talk today as a executive committee about inclusion of economic impact for the legislative mandated items as we come into the final stretch, and the work group for economic impact reconvenes to meet our requirements for CR 102 preliminary filing, inclusion in the filing, and then final, of course, CR 103 ultimately. Shall we include the legislative mandated items in that? So that is the question. Dustin, do you want to give more commentary around that?
Yeah, so when we're talking about without, I'm gonna try to paraphrase some statute that's in the Administrative Procedures Act that dictates if a rule is directed by legislative action, there is an exception for doing cost benefit analyses on that particular rule within the Administrative Procedures Act. It has been the view and by action of the council in the past that anything that's been directed by the legislature doesn't get the benefit of the cost benefit analysis. It's not to say that that hasn't been discussed as part of the development of those rulemakings. It's just we're not putting out a specific statement on those. In my consultations with Dirk and others, this RCW states that the content of the rule that's directed, it should be, the content is specifically dictated by legislation. So, for example, our WUI code section 1927.560 contains actual technical code language within that statute. And so when that passed and we codified that bit into the WUI code, there was no need for a cost benefit analysis because that was specifically dictated by the legislature. The what we're looking at for the single exits, temporary emergency shelters, minimum dwelling unit size, and multiplex housing rulemaking is that we were told to address a topic, and the specific rulemaking language that we are bringing to our CR 102 is not specifically dictated by the legislation. And so, with that viewpoint, to make sure that we're covering our basis, a economic analysis should be done for these. And my hope is that in this agenda item here today that we can, with the room we've created by moving that council meeting 1 week out, convene the work group of economic impact one more time to discuss these specific rulemaking topics to get the content we need. And it may not be as robust as we would like it, but it needs to be addressed in some form or fashion by the council to put into rulemaking to just cover that base on it. And I did invite Dirk to this meeting to maybe have some perspective as well. He is tied up for about another 12 minutes. And he said he'd be hopping on right around 1:30. So if we could maybe talk this one out a little bit, I'd like to get Dirk in here to maybe just get his perspective on any of the questions that maybe we might have on this one.
And Dustin, I think you set that up well. I think I would add that there's the question that Derek can probably answer of whether we are required or it's best practice to do it. I think, and we've talked about this in different meetings over time of whether it's required or just simply is it good practice. I've come to the conclusion that I think there's a little bit of a distinction between the example you gave. I think it's a good one, the WUI, where it was prescriptive in the statute what you shall do. I think when there's rulemaking authority and there's a broad enough range of possible solutions to meet that requirement, I feel that it's probably best practice and we should know the consequences or the impacts of that decision. So all of these in most cases, and I've shared with a couple of people here some independent analysis that I just so I can understand some of the impacts of the decisions being made. I think it'd be a good idea to bring these in, and then it's a discussion of what level of analysis is conducted.
Gotcha.
Another way of stating that, as I'm looking forward towards additional mandates such as scissor stairs, small elevators, I am seeing in my own analysis impact um, for those, positive impact for in the inclusion of those in the code. Now, my analysis may be wrong, and that's not going to be up to me in the end. That's why I think it's worthy of having that it is moving the needle, and that's a good thing, and we can have a positive impact there as in the rulemaking.
I'd also characterize most of these rulemakings as having what we would characterize as a positive impact, meaning that should overall reduce construction costs and regulatory impacts for folks having to comply with these rules.
Which would be the minimum um, kind of assessment by the cost by the work group, and that might be the level we go to. So, Tom, please.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you, Todd. I think, from one standpoint, there's been enough public outcry that we're neglecting these things, and I think it's important to show that we're not. So I'd be in favor of going forward with doing that.
Thank you, Tom. Go ahead, Jay.
Wanted to check in with Dustin on the staff impact of doing some of these. While I agree with Tom, the value of doing this, we are talking about some legislative mandates that don't necessarily require it, and so I just wanted to see about the staff impact on doing some of these.
So as far as like the preliminary cost benefit analyses that we're prepping, they will have components that are targeted towards these topics. Right now, they would be working with the information we have now would be that we don't have good information there, and that it's not necessarily required by the APA to specifically hit all those targets. As far as timelines with what we're working on, scheduling another meeting next week at some point will take another block of time away from making sure that the drafting of all this is ready in time. But we are already working these into our preliminary cost benefit analyses, and so I think if we had a meeting to bring that framework of how these were going to be looking in the cost benefit analyses, that we could kind of go over it and at least have some input from the council on that, and be able to point back to the meeting where we discussed it. And if we were to decide to schedule that meeting here today, I'd want to get a gov delivery out to our subscribers, calling for any input on the economics of these proposals, so that we could have more of a discussion that's not just the council, that we can get some proponents involved in that as well.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Ben, and then we'll go to public comment.
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, I guess similar to Jay's comment, Dustin, I guess, is there any precedent for doing that cost benefit analysis on adoption of appendices? So I mean, three of these items would be appendices that jurisdictions could adopt. So I guess I'm curious if that has been done before, or how that's been handled, and maybe you already answered that. So, thanks.
I would have to do some research to look at the appendices that contain amendments and kind of what has been done for the rulemaking in the past on those. For the single exits one, though, that one's going to be a mandatory adopted for the state appendix. And so it would be my view that should definitely be handled on that one, if anything, in the most robust fashion. And then the ones that are optional for adoption, maybe it would be since they're optional, they have no economic impact until they're adopted at the local level. But I'm hesitant to just kind of toss that in there as a reasoning statement.
Dustin and Ben, though, all these are statewide mandatory, aren't they?
Uh,
Well, I guess
I don't
there's no mandatory items that these are adding, right? Like I would say, like most all of these are adding additional options for.
Oh, okay.
I
Ben,
think
I'm making a clarification
yeah,
because
so
they're
yeah,
all mandatory adoption. You're making a distinction between whether they're alternative pathways.
yeah.
Yeah, they would be offering options. That minimum dwelling unit size one is the only one that's not really an option. It kind of is. I mean, people can still design however they're designing currently, but it'll allow them to go smaller. So it is an option to go smaller, but it removes some specific language.
But just to be clear, no one's saying these are optional adoption by jurisdictions. It is statewide
Correct.
code. Okay. Okay. Roger, I'm going to go to Andrea first, if that's okay, and then come back. Unless you'd like to respond. Okay, Andrea, please go ahead.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Andrew Smiley, BIW. Just clarifying question. Are we talking about the cost benefit analysis as it pertains to like the small business economic impact statement, if I said that correctly? Or are we talking about like an independent one? I just want to make sure I'm following the conversation adequately. Thank you.
Andrea, thank you. And I already caught myself before you said that I was saying cost benefit analysis, which is one of the considerations along with the small business impact. So I suspect we're talking about both here if we're going to bring it to the work group, like economic impact. Anyone disagree with that? Okay. Does that help, Andrea?
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay, appreciate that. Okay, now back to Roger, please.
Yeah, I have my own opinion on this. I think Ben has a really good point. We are not adding any requirements that change how we are currently doing things. You can always build a building with 2 exits. So given the current code, we're not taking anything away from the current code. So there is no opportunity, even so everybody assumes that going with a single exit is going to cost less. But if building under the single exit provision costs more, you can just design it under the existing code. So in my opinion, it is kind of a no-brainer statement that because of that, there's no cost increase. And then I also have made the argument to Dustin and to Dirk, I think, that even if we do an economic impact statement that says it costs more, we're directed by the legislature to do this. And there isn't anything in the legislature that says, I don't believe, that says you can't, that you have to do this and it has to be a reduction in cost. It says thou shalt do it. So I've always argued that it really doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do it. However, I think that the comment that, I don't know if it was Tom or Jay or both said, given the conversations that people have had, the concern that they've had about the economic impact statement and small business reports that we have done in the past, there has been some concern, so let's go ahead and do them. But Todd, the level, a simple statement in my mind that says we're not changing the existing code, so there is no it is assumed to be a reduction in cost, and if it's not, you can build it by the current code. So that therefore we've not changed the overall cost of building something. So
I think that's fair, Roger. I think we can, yes, I think we can debate then that philosophy of whether if there's other pathways in the code, whether or not we, in my opinion, we are spending, even if we're voluntary, but we are spending actual resources, for 2 years on these efforts. I think there should be some level of assessment of within that rulemaking activity, because that is amending a specific part of our code. Did that particular measure, is it cost effective? Because I guess something needs to document how we did. We could simply come in and say we're going to make every building 3-hour, type 1A and solve the technical problem, but not solved the cost or the small business, having any assessment on that. So anyway, just as
but Todd, and I don't know, we don't need to belabor this. If the solution was to build it out of type 1, we've offered that as a solution. And if you don't want to take our option, you just build it with 2 exits the way you're currently doing. And we have not increased the overall cost of building compared to the current code. So anyway, we don't need to.
Yeah, we jumped into a specific example there. So
yeah, we don't need to.
Okay. Thank you, Roger, for that. Tom, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm listening to all this and I'm kind of waffling a little bit too, but I think where I'm still landing is that we should be able to provide, staff availability, of course, as a concern, but I think that it's a duty to perhaps provide input on the economic impact of these provisions. Even if we are being directed to do it, they're only assuming that they're cheaper, those that are directing us. And if it's shown that they're not, I think, or if it's shown that they are, I think there's some serious benefit, especially in the public's eye, to know that we're not just making Washington an impossible place to build in anymore, that we're actually trying to make some headway. Um, and so I think that there's value on all sides of the equation to knowing that, even if it's not an extremely robust and exhaustive study, it should at least be looked at and quantified in some way, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Okay, I don't see any other hands, so I guess it would be appropriate to, I think we're maybe looking for a motion to include these four items that are listed, these mandatory amendments in our, we're referring to the work group for economic impact to consider these four items.
I would make such a motion.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Second, this is Jay.
Thank you, Jay. Okay, just to clarify, so we would be directing the work group for economic impact to consider these four items, stating it more directly. Okay, on that motion, one last opportunity for public comment or council deliberation. Seeing none, let's take a voice vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you. Okay, item 7 then. We're looking forward to the next series of legislative mandates that passed this year. Dustin, do you want to set this up for us, please?
Yeah, give me one moment here. I gotta recover from being called Dennis.
Yep.
Just kidding.
Where it came from.
Yep. So, for these ones, I'm just catching up my notes here. I'm gonna try to do it while we chat. Um, so we had three main bills that are impactful to rulemaking for SBCC pass in 2026. And those bills are the Kid Homes Bill, the Scissor Stairs Bill, and the Elevators and Small Apartments Bill. Both the Scissor Stair Bill and the Elevators and Smaller Apartments Bill are targeting the 2027 code cycle. But the Kid Homes Bill is targeting 2024 rules and has a due date of March 31st of 2027. So we're just under a year's worth of time to get this one done. And so it's prudent to get the work started now on that one. And and I have the bills pulled up for viewing. They're not quite codified into the online RCW yet, so I couldn't tell you what specific section they're going to go into or what the numbers would be. So let me pull those over here.
And Dustin, while you're doing that, may I kind of
Yeah.
give some context to this because we've had a few discussions. And so this is the first of, a long process here, except that we're going fast on the kid homes. But what's interesting about this in my mind is, the last four I thought were very successful. And two of those were very much writing new code. A couple of them started to feel a little more like we're in the kind of a standards area, but we were able to pull in some base code or standard language from other examples, say California or Tacoma, if I remember correctly. So we're talking about the emergency shelters and the I'm blanking now on the other. Oh,
Uh,
the small dwelling units. We were able to pull in some Seattle examples in Tacoma on how to approach that. These three are interesting because the kid homes is really now asking for almost a standard level um, development, which also I've said a couple times, and in fact, I'm going on Monday to DC to work on standards with NIBS, National Institute of Building Sciences, related to this kind of topic. And then the elevator is the same. The council is weighing in and forming a specific technical advisory group to address small elevators, which is going to be a mix of both code and standard type language. I think the scissor stairs is a little more direct. It's probably more in the base code and really well handled by the IBC tag, although somebody's going to have to develop language. So that's kind of the question. All three of these now have to develop new language somehow. What is the best way to do that? The technical advisory groups, do we see them as, um, you know, receiving some language and then having subject matter experts then weigh in on that acceptance. Do we expect them to actually write code in standard language, or is that better dealt with ahead of time by a committee or a work group? Let's use that term. Or even a contract if necessary, an external contract to develop that to bring forward to the technical advisory group to amend and bring forward to the council as a recommendation. Does that help? That's the way in my mind's thinking about it, and that's the question. So go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I may be mistaken. I had thought one of these did have some money set aside by the legislature,
The kid home, you're correct. The one we're looking at right here.
which would imply the opportunity anyway to hire a consultant to write an initial pass of what the language would look like. My experience with the single exit and multiplex housing is we just asked for people to submit initial drafts. And it so happened that the city of Seattle, certainly for the single exit, that was by far the most developed at the time. So we used it as a starting point, but then we ended up, by going through the process, we were modifying and basically writing code language at the tech level. But it wasn't dependent upon having an initial set of code language. However, it was really helpful to have that as a baseline. So I guess that is just, the experience we went through on the single exit multiplex housing.
Mhm.
So Todd, are you aware of any states or other jurisdictions around that have anything on their books for kit homes?
Well, I think the closest thing I mean, yes, there are, but they're all participating in this national level um, effort with the National Institute of Building Sciences. Um, the legislature was not aware at all when they drafted this that effort is also going on. So I will bring everything back to the state, of course, there. But I think this one in particular would benefit from having um, someone involved in that process contracted to help us with code language, with the standard language. This probably lands in an appendix, but it's going to feel to me a lot more like a standard. And then if they do adopt a better standard, in 3 years and it becomes an ANSI standard, then maybe there is a future state where that's getting also referenced or even supersedes, this language if it's better, right? Go ahead, Roger.
Sorry, I didn't take my hand down.
Oh, okay. Okay. I just want to offer the public any initial thoughts here before we kind of discuss what the action might be. I guess we have time on the other two, right? Those are deliberately, the language was pretty consistent saying for the cycle after January 1st, 2028, I think in both or similar, so that we knew we're entering into the 3-year cycle on that. But kit homes, um, we have to start. So my thought was we use the mechanism of we don't have in our bylaws the terminology that other agencies do of work group, but essentially that's what we need to create right now. We don't need a formal technical advisory group right now yet to start to review this. We need a work group and that can be pretty nimble at first. And then also, as we establish, then bring forward to the council, are we ready to put this out to contract if that's the desire of the council? So in our bylaws, we've talked about this in other meetings. We have the ability to create a special council committee to do a very specific task on a very specific timeline. And that simply can be formed by the chair of one of the standing committees or the chair of the council. But we would want to talk about that. If that's the mechanism we think is a good fit for right now to get started, to bring recommendations forward to the council, then we could just simply say we're doing that and then say at a later date in the next council meeting or that we bring some initial recommendations forward. So if you want to go deeper into our bylaws and all these, but I think we've talked about this at other meetings. It would just simply be, let's start to bring recommendations to the next council meeting. Not full language, just what's the plan? What's the pathway forward to get to March 31st of 2020? Oh, I see hands up. Sorry, Roger.
Yeah, it was not left up this time.
Okay.
So knowing, again, going back to my experience with single exit tag, and knowing that we have 12 months to get through this whole process, it took us 2 or 3 months just to get the tag formed.
Correct.
Who are the members and then to do our work. What can Dustin, can you tell me what is required by March 27th? It says rulemaking, I think. Perform rulemaking. What do we have to have done by March 27th to fit under the perform rulemaking?
So it would be my interpretation of this statute, and Dirk's online with us now. And so Dirk, if I don't hit this one out of the park, please, by all means, correct me. But the term perform rulemaking, I would interpret to mean the completion of rulemaking, not the initiation of rulemaking in this regard. So we'd be filing CR 103 by March 31st. And to take it a step further, it might be interpreted, or the desire might have been to have these rules in effect by March 31st.
Well,
Yeah, I'm going to just jump in. I have given, I love these sort of meetings. So hi, everyone. It's nice to see everybody. I love these sort of meetings because I've given exactly zero thought to this language until now. Dustin, appreciate you putting me on the spot. But I would endorse that point of view. Perform rulemaking is, at least to me, I think is intended to mean not start it and see what happens, but actually to complete the rulemaking. Not clear whether that means effective date or just wrap it up. I think an argument could be made it means wrap it up because it doesn't say the rules must be in effect by a certain date. But I think people can quibble about that in good faith.
And I would add, and then I'll go to Jay. The sponsor could not be more clear what the intent was, and it passed both House and Senate unanimously, I think. So I think it's well understood. Just get going, get it done, and we can do this even in, I would even be more aggressive and say, let's have the target of before legislative session and just have it wrapped up.
I'd say what a member thinks is often a very good data point.
Yeah, it could not be made more clear to me and others that was the intent. So
if I can finish then my thought before Jay, if that's possible. So we have to, going back, and I'm just going to use the March 27th because I think that it's really, really fast, given the startup time. We have to have we've got to have CR 102 filed by December, call it. So you have the 60-day public comment period. and then we take final action in March, maybe January, but let's call it December. And I think that the tag has to have 3 months, so that's the tag needs to be started by early September, maybe. If we have funds available, then I think that the best pathway I see is let's get somebody under contract to draft the language. And, I was thinking as you were talking, we already rely very, very heavily, at least I know we did on the two that I took care of, on volunteer people to write that language. And we've talked as a council many, many times. It's like, if you want us to do more work, we need to hire some people to do that work. We can't always rely on volunteer labor to do that. In this case, if we have funds available, I suggest that we get that in process, get that person, get it published. Here's what we need hired, because that process itself will probably take a month or two. I don't know. Then they have a deadline. They've got to do their work. They won't be done till summer. And while they're doing that, we get the technical advisory group formed. So I think that we need to start right away.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, Jay, please.
Yeah, my comments echo a lot of Roger's, in that we need to work backwards from March of 2027 to understand all of the filing requirements. For this cycle, when we finally did that and understood things like and other filings that staff had to do, it really impacted things. So a year from now is going to come faster than we think. And so I want to think through those deadlines. As Rogers kind of sketched it out, I think he's correct that we're going to have code by the end of the year. With that, given the order that you kind of outlined, Todd, I would say that having a consultant or a contractor in place is kind of the first gating thing, versus you had suggested putting the committee or a tag in place. So I think that having a consultant or a contractor developing code is going to be a critical path, and that's what we'll need to hear from staff on how that goes, and then we can have further discussions within the full state building code council of what would tag membership look like. And again, working backwards, I agree with Roger's sketch that said, probably having that in place by summer makes sense.
Okay. Yeah, and thank you, Jane. Just to clarify, when I say the mechanism of the committee, that is that some mechanism of the council has to give guidance to that consultant of what they're doing. So it's not, in my opinion, it's not simply hand them this bill. I think that committee would be the one working very closely along with staff on to that consultant to go fast in the next 2-3 months to develop the baseline code. I guess then the
I think
question
that
is,
makes some sense
yep.
to have a tag provide interim feedback as a consultant's developing code. What I don't want to do is have a committee involved in scoping the consultant work and things like that would slow the hiring of the consultant, because I think that's a staff function and is critical path.
Yeah, thank you. Maybe I'll say it differently. I think that committee might be 1 or 2 people is the one engaging with that consultant right from the beginning to get going, with the outcome being a deliverable to the council in the next 2-3 months. And then the tag, I would call that something different. The tag is the recommendation to the council, the one who will receive that, review that, subject matter experts to go through our process to recommend that to the council. Okay, I see a hand from, let's go with Brian, please. Welcome.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to address an earlier part of the conversation where there are multiple standards that exist created by the Montreal Building Institute and ICC that I think would address the requirement of the Kid Homes Bill. and I think could certainly help align the rules with the path that L&I is under 2151 for volumetric modular construction. So I would suggest that as a path for a consultant if that's the direction you take.
Yep. Thank you for bringing that forward, Brian, and for everyone's reference there. That is also, those standards were included in 3-year cycles external amendment that I put in. That's why I know that was considered by the IRC TAG, and the discussion in that TAG IRC TAG was also that we know this is coming forward, this specific example. So I think we are well prepared to consider those standards. So I thank you, Brian, for bringing that up. I think it'll be more than those standards too, but I think those are critical pieces. Okay. Any other comments? I have a question, I guess, for everyone on the contracting side. If that's the recommendation that we think the executive committee is leaning towards, is there anything formal to direct the staff to do that, or because it's already an appropriation that staff can start to move forward with that contracting? And that the meeting notes here document the executive
I
committee.
think a motion from this group would be good to have to direct staff to initiate that contracting part. It'll take some stuff to get that contract worked out, and um, I have to review the thresholds for exactly what we need to do. But if we go out to RFP on this, it kind of adds some more timeline in there. But I'll need to get with the contract folks here at DES and um, begin the conversation.
Okay, and then we will put on the agenda on April 24th an update to the council of where we are. Okay, if that's the action, then can we hear a motion to direct staff to initiate a contract through the contracting process to develop baseline code for this kit bill?
So move. This is Jay.
Thank you, Jay.
Second.
I think that was Tom. Second, thank you. Okay, on that motion, is there any public comment or deliberation from the council? Okay, and inherent to that is whether or not we formally have to declare it. We'll form that committee and report to the council of a proposed pathway there. Okay, let's try a voice vote for that motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Okay, that motion passes. That's the end of that agenda. Now we move into our other business, which we have a topic to discuss. Dustin, will you lead that?
So we have some new council appointments, and they're just coming in over the last week. We're getting them orientated with our orientation documents. And then the plan right now is to introduce new council members at our upcoming council meeting. I did anticipate the movement of that council meeting to the 24th. And so they've been notified that the council meeting is on the 24th and won't need any updates for that one. But here in this room, we have two reappointments that have been made. So Tom Handy has been reappointed as the representative for Eastern Counties. Ben Omura has been reappointed as the representative for Mechanical Engineers. And then currently we have three new appointees. We have Jason Benway representing the construction labor industries and will be replacing Justin Borgo. We have Morgan Tweed, who is going to be representing individuals with a disability and will be replacing the slot that Pete Reiki was in. And then we have Vikram Sami for the architect's position, stepping in for Chell Anderson. And then we still have one council seat that is left unfilled. I'm getting notice from the governor's office that they're still addressing it. But we don't have the appointment just yet, but that's for the Eastern Cities representation.
Great, outstanding. Well, congratulations, and that's all good news.
Yes. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate everybody's willingness.
And just in time, so thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so to conclude this meeting, I think our next meeting is going to be the work group of economic impact and BRFW and maybe MVPE next week.
So we'll have the BFRW meeting next week to discuss the temporary emergency shelters and dwelling unit size appendices. Uh, and that's to make the recommendation or forward the recommendation from the tag on up to the council to include in CR 102. As far as that goes, I am preparing a draft to send off to the code revisor as soon as that motion's made, so that it shouldn't impact our filing date of May 6th. And
Dustin, on that topic, so I interrupt you, is IBC tag finishing that off next week? Is that what I
no,
understand?
they're done. They've
They're
made their
done. Okay.
recommendation for both of those to the BFRW committee.
Okay.
And then for the MVPE committee, it's still on the schedule right now, but there's not anything for this group to discuss unless we get the inputs from PNNL that I mentioned earlier in the meeting. And I'll pause because there's a name up with their hand up who participates within those groups. So, Greg Johnson, you have a comment? I'll pause for.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if you guys were gonna push the MVPE 1 week. I know we're still working. I mean, we're gonna be meeting in 4 minutes, you know what I mean, together to work on it. And I was just kind of wondering if, with the council being pushed, if that makes sense.
We can definitely do that. I would like to make sure we have those inputs in hand before we schedule the meeting out there. Um, is it, are we, so Greg, you're working with that group, and are we expecting the inputs from that group within the next week or so?
Our goal was scrambling to get it in today, but I mean, I know I won't have my portion done today because I just got some email from PNL this afternoon, which I haven't had time to incorporate that. So my read on it, and I'm hesitant to speak for the group, but my read is we really do need an extra week
Okay.
because I don't foresee having stuff in until late next week.
Okay. Thanks for that update, Greg. Okay, that's noted. So that's helpful to perhaps consider a special MVPE meeting before the April 24th meeting, council meeting. Okay.
And Ben, as the chair of that group, you okay with a meeting Friday morning next week? Or Friday afternoon, either way. The work group of economic impact, I'd like to target towards Friday.
Next
Yeah,
Friday.
understood. So we would cancel the standing meeting that's on the books for next Friday and have a special meeting the week after.
Correct.
In 2 weeks.
Right.
And then, okay, that's helpful. And then, Dustin, I'm not getting your name right today. Uh, that's the day we'd also consider a work group for economic impact. 2 weeks from
Ideally,
now.
I'd like to not have it just next week, give people 2 weeks to prepare comments to bring to that group.
Agreed. Any opposition to that? Okay. Did we do it?
And yeah, so I was wrapping up thoughts on the standing committees, and then we touched on the work group of economic impact happening on that Friday. And so I'll work with the chairs of those two groups to get the schedule out there.
And the work group for economic impact is this group, right?
I mean, it includes all of the tag chairs.
All the tag chairs. So it's
Yeah.
bigger. Okay. I remember now. Thank you. Okay. That's helpful. Any other business?
No, sir. All
All right. Thank you all. With that, we are adjourned.
right. Thanks everybody for the time
Have a
today.
great weekend.
Thank you.
See ya.